Hi guys. I'm live. How you guys doing? Um, I haven't followed my daily things like I'm supposed to do this, and this on each day, especially since my acoustic guitar broke a string and I don't know how to change the strings. And I know a friend in town that knows how to change them, but I can't afford strings right now. So even if I even if I can hand it to her and say change these, I don't have money to buy strings to give her to put on the guitar, and I can't change them myself. So that dropped me out of doing Button Up Monday because that's what I was doing. I was dressing up in a suit and playing acoustic guitar sitting in a chair. And when I broke my acoustic guitar string, which I broke the fifth string, which she says never breaks, the lady that can fix strings on acoustic. That's the string that broke. But so I haven't done all my things that I'm supposed to do. So I haven't done the Jack, JAC, Jimmie Against Christ in a while either. And I know it's not Friday, but I'd like to do a Jack episode right now, Jimmie Against Christ. Is that okay? All right. There's a saying, it might even come from the Bible. It does come from the Bible. Jesus said it at the Sermon on the Mount or something like that. He said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. House divided against itself cannot stand. And that should also apply to Christianity if it applies to everything else, even though Jesus said it. Can't it apply to Christianity? And I submit and suggest right now that Christianity is divided against itself. And let me explain why that is and why it really can't stand, at least as I analyze it, at least to me. There's so many factions, Factions, I think that's how you spell, in Christianity that they just they obliterate each other. Let's start with traditional Christianity, which is all the Protestants and Catholics. So you have Baptist, Nazarene, Presbyterian, whatever, and then you have Catholic. They all suggest that Jesus is God, because if Jesus is not God, you don't have a gospel. You don't have a savior if Jesus isn't God. If Jesus isn't divine, then so what if he died, and what can he do for me? So you've got all those people saying that. But you've got other Christians equally righteous to themselves that say that, such as the Jehovah's Witnesses say, that Jesus was not God because God cannot die. Man cannot look at God and live. So the fact that the other Christians say that Jesus is God can't be true. Because if Jesus is God, how can I see God and live? And if Jesus is God, how can God die when God is everlasting, immortal, and eternal? And if Jesus is God, according to the witnesses, Jehovah's Witnesses, if Jesus is God, he didn't have a chance at failure, so he was never tempted, because God can't be tempted, nor can he lie. So there's mutual contradiction. Because on the other hand, if Jesus isn't God, then he didn't die. Then his death can't mean anything to me. So there's two sides of these opposite sides of Christianity obliterate each other. And I've studied this, so I know what I'm talking about here. In fact, I have. In fact, the witnesses say that the only way that Jesus can substitute for us as a sacrifice is if he's equal to us. He can't be greater than us. So he has to be only perfect, like Adam was. He can't be God like Jehovah is, because otherwise that's an unequal sacrifice. You have to have equal value for equal value. To the witnesses, Jesus was just a perfect man, but he did it right, unlike Adam. So Jesus can't be God but that makes an equal, fair sacrifice. A perfect man that did it right, that got sacrificed, is an equal sacrifice. Whereas Adam didn't do it right, even though he was perfect too. But the other Christians say, no, if Jesus isn't God, then Christianity doesn't, then his death means nothing. So how about the and here's another issue. I just want to say that. Here's another issue. How about going to war? Okay, traditional Christians, Catholic and Baptists and all that, go to war and fight other countries, believe in war, believe in going to war to defend your country. The witnesses say, how can that be? Because if you go to war, you're going to go to war against other Christians. You're killing other Christians just because they live in a different town or a country or part of the world, which is unethical and wrong and immoral and bad. But the regular Christians, Baptists and whatever, and Catholics say no. You know, God is behind America. America's great because God was behind the founding of America. The founding fathers were Christians. Okay, obliterate each other. And every doctrine can be done like that. How about the doctrine of? Sorry, I actually hit the volume on my remote. How about the issue of Jesus saying that Jesus died on the cross? Okay, let's deal with that. The regular Christians say Jesus died on a cross. Literally two beams of wood. Well, the Jehovah's Witnesses say that the cross is a pagan symbol, and that's the only reason they use that. That got borrowed from paganism. Cross was already the Egyptian ankh was already a cross. It meant like it had to do with the four seasons and then astrology and how you have the four seasons which come like a cross. You know, Sagittarius, Pisces, Gemini, and Virgo, make like a cross, and there's, and that's a pagan symbol. And therefore, how can they say he's died on a torture stake? More likely it was just a piece of wood sticking up out of the ground rather than just a literal cross. So is the cross what Jesus died on, i.e. Catholic and Baptist, or is the cross a pagan symbol that shouldn't even be used in worship at all? Jehovah's Witnesses. There's division, blows each other up. How about hellfire doctrine? Okay. The regular Christians, Catholic and all that, say that hell exists. If your soul is immortal, and when you die, if you're bad, you go to hell and burn forever. You have to go somewhere because you are an immortal soul, and hell was a place for the demons and Satan, and you'll go there with them if you are bad and are unsaved. Well, the Jehovah's Witnesses say that God can't do that because that's inhumane, and God can't be loving if he's that unfair. So there can't be an eternal hell. In fact, what happens according to the witnesses is if you are bad, you just don't get a resurrection. You just stay in the grave. Hell was only meant as a metaphor for eternal death, such as Gehenna was a place where they burned trash, and it was the only word for hell they had was Gehenna and Sheol. Sheol meant the grave where you sit there, maybe to get resurrected or not. Gehenna meant the grave where you just sit there forever. And that when you go to hell, you really are, first of all, if you think of Sheol, you're just going to death. But if you're going to Gehenna, that version of hell, you just stay in death because you are judged unrighteous or evil, wicked, whatever, and then you don't get a resurrection, and hell is just eternal oblivion. Sounds like a Eve 6 song. It's beautiful oblivion. I love that song, by the way. So which is it? Doctrines blow each other up. First of all, the Catholics and all that believing in eternal suffering is what hell is, and the witnesses believing that hell is just eternal death, non-redeemable, infinite, eternal destruction. Okay, so how can you have those doctrines just contradict each other with the different factions of Christianity? In fact, Jesus said that Lazarus was only sleeping. Well, he meant he was in the grave. He didn't mention going to hell. I didn't hear Lazarus come back to earth, come back after being dead for a few days and say, "Oh God, it was bad in hell," or "Oh gosh, it was great in heaven." He just didn't have any report. It's the witness's idea. But then the Christians say, no, Jesus went to hell when he died. He went to literal hell for 3 days, and he burned with the demons. He was alive. He never really died. His soul went to hell. Well, that can't exist according to the Jehovah's Witnesses. So doctrines blow each other up. How about the Sunday worship? Okay, how about that? Well, regular Christians not only think that there's still a Sabbath law, but that they choose Sunday as the Sabbath. Well, Seventh-day Adventists say that Saturday is the Sabbath and Sunday is a pagan day. Sunday was not only pagan because they worshipped the sun on that day, but it's the first day of the week, not the seventh. And the seventh day is Saturday, so we should worship on Saturday because Saturday is the real Sabbath. Okay, which is true. They just blow each other up. The regular Christians say, no, Sunday is what we choose because the Pope changed it, or it doesn't matter, just a day's a day. So if they haven't, say, no, you're worshiping on the wrong day. You're taking the mark of the beast, because Sunday there's going to be a Sunday law. It's going to be a mark of the beast. If you don't worship on Sunday, you're going to be forced to not be able to buy or sell. And then if you worship on Sunday according to the law, you're going to be worshiping the Sunday law, which is the mark of the beast. And to make it even more mixture there, the Jehovah's Witnesses say, well, it doesn't matter which day, because Jesus obliterated the moral law when he died, and now we're not under that law, so it doesn't matter. You don't even have to keep a Sabbath. We just happen to worship on Sunday because it's convenient, because everyone else does, and because people have the day off of work. And they just blow each other up. You can't, for every single doctrine, at least all the major ones I know of, and many of them, every part of Christianity says something different. And even if you decide to choose to believe in the Bible, how do you know which one is true? And if there's division on every single issue, then how do you know any of it is true? And maybe all of it is bullshit. Hence, Jimmie against Christ, Jack. I've said a few of them here. Is there any others? Let me think. I mean, there's many of these little, I don't know, little or not, but they're just contradictions within Christendom or Christianity, whatever you want to call it. And a house divided against itself can't stand. Jesus said that on the Sermon on the Mount or whatever, and that has to apply to Christianity if it applies to everything else, everybody else. So love you guys, peace, love, and rock and roll.